Hi students, we're now looking at legislation, which is part of topic 3 of lawmaking. So when we go back to year 11, we're thinking about how does Parliament make laws? We either call them legislation, statutes, or acts of Parliament. We also know the executive arm, which is our cabinet, can delegate to make laws, and the judicial arm, which is our courts at federal and state level, can make common law, case law, precedents, or judge-made law. All of these terms are universal, and they are used at different times and places throughout the course. So if you say acts of Parliament, it's the same as legislation or a statute. Common law is the same as case law or judge-made law. Judges are also given the power to interpret statutes, and that's called statutory interpretation. That's making sense of things such as, what does it mean when they say vehicle for drink driving? And a vehicle may be defined as a motorised bicycle or a motorised esky. So the law needs to be interpreted by the judges to make sense of the laws made by parliamentarians. Legislation. We know that Parliament is sovereign and it is the supreme lawmaker. It says clearly in the Constitution, in Chapter 1, Sections 1 to Section 60, that its constitutional government at both state and federal level are vested with the power to make laws for members of the public. We know at federal level, it's through the House of Reps and Senate, which has the checks and balances. Supply bills are also introduced to Parliament, but they must start in the House of Representatives. The reason for that is so that the states or the Senate cannot benefit from making their own legislation regarding funds for each state or territory. The 4 functions of Parliament are outlined in your textbook. You should know these not just for the exam, but when writing about the roles of Parliament. Democratic function is representative government that they're voted in to represent us and make laws. Legislative function is making laws, social cohesion, social progress. Supply function is making money bills or supply bills, which keep the country running. And the scrutinising function is having a shadow Parliament and a Senate, which allows for a House of Review. So where do laws come from? What you can see here in this diagram is that most laws are initiated by Parliament, but they come from a range of places such as the media, pressure groups, electoral mandates or promises, royal commissions, making case law codified as Parliament-made law, the United Nations such as Racial Discrimination Act, and through parliamentary committees on issues of importance of the day. This is just a slide that shows the creation of legislation. That bills become acts, and they only become laws when they are proclaimed, which is given a date, and they're placed in the Gazette to ensure that all members of the public are aware of the start date and what the new law entails. Again, types of bills are proposed laws. The majority of bills are public bills. These are introduced by ministers and cabinet, and they steer them through Parliament. Remember, they can start in the House of Reps or the Senate. Private members' bills are any bills that are made by people, usually not ministers, and you usually need to lobby the government to get backing. These sometimes can be of controversial issues or of issues relating to a particular electorate. Public bills can be any of the following. Original bill, changing the speed limits. Amending a bill is changing an existing act. Repealing bills which are dated and need to be updated. And consolidating bills are combining a range of acts into one act to suit the society at the time. Supply bills are in section 53 and they must start in the House of Reps. So when we vote on legislation in the House of Reps or Senate, they vote along party lines, which means they vote with their party. More often than not, this is decided before they go into Parliament so that they are very aware of who and what needs to be voted on. If they cross the floor, it means to go against their party, and the consequence for this might be that their party may expel them and they become a part of the backbench, or they may in fact become an independent. This is often viewed to be quite dishonest and controversial, especially with the major parties. Whereas a conscience vote means to vote on your own values and your own morals, where you're free to do so by your leader, which in this case might be the Prime Minister, and it might be again on a controversial or a moral issue where you are told to vote as to how you feel. You are freed up from party discipline and nothing can be held against you. The procedures for voting are very, very old-fashioned and they date back to the early years of Britain. Number one is on the voices. A's and no's are yelled out with the shaking of the head for no and the nodding of the head for yes. If it's overwhelmingly obvious that the vote is a yes, it will proceed. If there's a dispute or a spill or a division, I'll call for a formal vote. The Speaker will yell out division. The bell will ring and people must get into Parliament, into either of the houses. People then move to the right of the chair for yes or the left of the chair for no. This is more formal, names are counted and recorded. And you can see here, if you're going against party lines, it's very obvious. These are recorded in Hansard, which is a parliamentary record, and people can hold you to accountability. Hope you enjoyed slide 1 on Parliament with a lawmaking focus.